The research question of this study asks how did individual proprietors shape the adaptability and long term survival of small town businesses like the general store during periods of economic and demographic transportation transformations in the 20th century? This question is historically significant because it challenges older interpretations of economic modernization that emphasize structural inevitability over individual agency. Much of the earlier historiography of American businesses, like the work of Alfred Chandler, framed the rise of large scale corporations and vertically integrated enterprises as the dominant force reshaping the American economy. Chandler argued that the modern managerial capitalism displays smaller localized businesses because these larger organizations possess advantages such as efficiency, distribution, and resource coordination. Similarly, Richard Tedlow demonstrated how mass marketing and standardized consumer culture encouraged Americans to favor nationally recognized brands and predictable retail experiences. Taken together, these interpretations imply that institutions such as the general store should have gradually disappeared under the weight of modernization and retail consolidation. Yet, the continued survival of businesses like Renfro Hardware and General Merchandise complicates those assumptions. The store's persistence into the 21st century suggests that modernization did not affect all businesses uniformly, and that the actions of individual proprietors mattered significantly in determining outcomes. Through this research, I seek to bring human agency back into the conversation of the history of small business survival by examining how proprietors interpreted economic change, adapted their businesses, and cultivated the community relationships that allowed their stores to remain viable despite broader structural pressures. The research of Mansell Blackford strongly supports this approach. Blackford argued that small businesses should not be viewed simply as miniature versions of large corporations because they operated according to different structural principles. Small firms relied on concentrated ownership, direct community relationships, and flexibility in management rather than large bureaucratic hierarchies. Because authority remained centered in the proprietor, decisions concerning inventory, credit, and consumer relations could be adjusted quickly in response to local conditions. This is useful for explaining Renfro Hardware's survival because the store's adaptability consistently depended on the decisions of individual owners rather than impersonal corporate structures. This emphasis on proprietorship is also supported by the work of Jean Baptiste Say, whose theories of entrepreneurship emphasize the role of owners' judgment, knowledge, and perseverance in determining business success. Say viewed business as extensions of individuals who operated them, a framework especially relevant to small town retail enterprises where ownership and management were inseparable. This is reinforced by Mirjam von Prague, who argued that owners' personal characteristics frequently determine whether small businesses survive or fail. In the case of Renfro Hardware, David Blackley's entrepreneurial judgment shaped nearly every aspect of the business's adaptation to changing economic realities. For instance, when market forces and buying patterns changed at the turn of the century, 21st century, Black shifted the store away from construction materials and toward gardening supplies, identifying an underserved niche within the local market. Or recent scholarship on adaptability and organizational learning, like that of Geoffrey Hodgson and his co authors, argues that even limited forms of adaptability can significantly affect the survival prospects of small businesses. Small businesses may lack the resources for large scale transformation, but they can survive through gradual adjustments in routines, products, and practices. This framework is clearly visible in the evolution of Renfro hardware. The store did not abandon its historical identity. Instead, it selectively adapted to suburbanization, demographic shifts, and changing consumer habits while maintaining continuity with its past. Blackley's decision to create the Matthews Farmers Market, his use of gardening education classes, and his experimentation with changing store hours after COVID all illustrate incremental adaptation rather than wholesale reinvention. Similarly, the work of Martina Battisti emphasizes that resilience in small businesses often depends on continuous learning. Battisti argues that successful small firms adapt through informal learning processes embedded within the daily experiences of ownership and management. This interpretation aligns closely with Blackley's own descriptions of studying market trends, learning gardening systems, observing competitors, and modifying inventory according to customer demand. The store's survival was therefore not accidental or purely nostalgic. It was the product of sustained observation, experimentation, and strategic adjustment by its proprietor. The survival of the American General Store is not an anomaly, but evidence that individual agency remains significant even during periods of profound economic transition. The case of Renfro Hardware demonstrates that local businesses could persist when proprietors possess the flexibility, knowledge, and willingness to adapt their operations without abandoning their embeddedness within the community. By focusing on the role of ownership and entrepreneurial decision making, this research contributes to broader historical debates in business history and studies modernization by showing that structural economic change did not eliminate the importance of individual actors in shaping local entrepreneurial and economic life.